I was thinking about you this morning because we had a bit of a shocker getting out of the house this morning. I'm one of those people that has proper time blindness. So if I leave my house in anywhere appropriate a time to get the kids on time to school, I feel like I deserve a medal or some small parade. And that was my morning this morning. I'm solo parenting this week, and I was like, I am killing it. Like, I'm out the door. I've got the readers. I've got the library bags. I'm going to go do kindy help. So I'm already a hero because I'm going to go and sit in class today, right? I'm absolutely smashing it. And then, speaking of smashing it, my daughter swings her school bag and smashes one of those keep cups off, which had my tea in it that I was taking with me to school.
No. Good start.
And you know when you drop a glass or a jar or something and it just politely breaks into like 2 or 3 bits? This was not like that. This was like a shrapnel bomb of a cup that went everywhere. And I was like, so we've got this puppy. I can't leave it on the floor and just go deal with it when I get home because the puppy will cut its feet. Yeah. And I'm on my hands and knees picking up glass from everywhere as the clock is ticking. And so my window of being on time to school just rapidly diminished while I picked up all of this glass, ended up with glass in my foot. So I'm hopping around the kitchen just going like, just turned into a total shocker. And I thought about you and I thought, do things like this piss Mike off? Or is he so enlightened now that he's like, this is fine and I'm fine? Do they?
Absolutely. They do, but they don't linger. And that's the thing. You know, I love that story about the $86,400 if you've got $86,400 in your pocket and someone comes over and bumps you and takes $10 away, do you give them the rest of the money? And you're like, no, of course not. You keep the rest. But that's what we do with our time. We have 86,400 seconds a day. And someone comes along and pinches 10 seconds of your time, and then you devote emotionally your mindset to that problem for the rest of the day. So you've just given them everything that you've got. And I think for me, I can compartmentalize those challenges and go, all right, that was really frustrating. I'll allow myself to get a little frustrated, take a few deep breaths, and then go, well, could be worse, and let's get on with the rest of the day. Let's keep the rest and not give them the satisfaction of taking all the time that I have for the day.
I shared the stage with you. I was lucky enough to share the stage with you recently. I introduced you at an event that you were the headline keynote for healthcare professionals. And before you went on stage, we stole half an hour to sit together and we talked speaking and life. And I walked away feeling like we had really been put into each other's lives for a reason that day. And I'm wondering whether you feel like life happens to you or for you.
Oh, I really think, as you know, after our conversation, and there was lots of laughter and there was lots of deep conversation, there was lots of tears as well, I do recall. But for me, I'm a man of great faith, and I feel that God has a plan for me, and He maps out my life, and I just walk into the platform or the stage or the journey that He set out for me. And it's so funny how people walk into your life for a season, or they walk into your life for a lifetime. And I really am so intrigued in understanding that connection and the why behind it. And I really think that for you, with you, when whatever the phrase is that people want to use, I just think the more that you can feel in your heart of hearts that everything happens in your life for a reason. And if it's a tragedy, if it's a heartbreak, yes, it's very difficult to identify the reason, but maybe it's a learning, maybe it's a lesson, maybe it's the understanding that we learn far more from a loss than we ever do from a win. And same deal with people. Some people come in and they try and take a little piece of your world away. Sometimes it's a good thing and other times it's not so good. But when they do that, it's a lesson to make sure that we are better and more equipped moving forward. So, I'm grateful that you've entered into my journey, into my life, and I'm sure this is just the beginning.
Same. And I'm so excited to share a little piece of you with listeners today. So I've built my entire career out of pulling stories out of people and then communicating them to the public. And I have to say that as far as stories go, yours is a doozy. There's no other word for it, right? And I filled pages and pages of notes listening to you that day. And I see a lot of speakers, and I feel really lucky to have been in the room with you that day. But for people who don't know you and don't know your story, give us a little bit of context. Take me back to 1984, Coffs Harbour. What was baby Mike like?
It was a different journey back then. It was myself and my 3 older sisters and my mom and my dad, and we lived out on a 5-acre farm, and life seemed to be ideal. Dad always wanted a son, and he tried the first time, no good. Second time, no good. Third time, no good. And fourth time, he managed to finally get what he was after. But I guess going back then, he had no idea the devastation, the heartbreak, the pain, the suffering that they were about to embark on. I was just a healthy, normal little kid with a fat stomach until I was 11 months of age. I went to the doctors with my mum and my sister. My sister had an earache, and I'm much more of a hugger, as you know. And I gave the doctor a hug as we were leaving. I could sort of barely walk, but I gave him a hug, and my stomach brushed his knee, and he thought, that doesn't feel right. He did some tests, and then he took me to the Coffs Harbour Hospital. And then that night we were airlifted to Sydney Hospital. And the following morning I was diagnosed with an incurable cancer of the central nervous system called stage 4 neuroblastoma. And the doctor said that there was no chance of survival to go home and allow me to live the next few months with my family, because there was nothing that we can do. And, I can only imagine the fear and the worry and the heartache and the sucker punch to the guts that would have felt to my family, in particular my mum and my dad. But fortunately enough, my mum wanted to delve a little deeper, and she just asked one simple question that changed my life forever. And that was, I don't want to know what the chances are of my son dying is. I want to know what the chances are of my son surviving. And the doctor said I had a 96% death rate to go home. And, to this day, I'm so incredibly grateful that my mum chose to look at my life not being 96% empty, but she chose to look at my life being 4% full. And what a wild ride the next 5 years was in hospital. Chemo, 9 days on, 3 days off for 3.5, nearly 4 years. Back in those days, we didn't have the drug that prevented us from vomiting, so we would just constantly vomit. And one day the doctors came in and said the treatment's no longer doing the job. The tumor had built a resistance that had taken over half of my body. It was growing up into my aorta. It was crushing my spine, and they said we need to go into surgery. And they offered for my mum to carry me into surgery, and the reason why was because they thought that this may have been the very last time that my mum got to hold me alive. And 6 hours later, the doctors came out and said to my mum, "We're sorry, we didn't get it all, but there's now nothing that we can do." And that was meant to be the end. But there was a trial drug that they were trialing on 25 patients around the world. 24 candidates had said yes. And we really believe that outside of love, hope is one of the most powerful words in the English dictionary. And it gave us hope. And we said yes to that trial drug. We had to sign a waiver. So regardless of the side effects of the drug, we weren't allowed to sue the company. And as you know, the next 18 months was horrific. Not only did it burn us internally, but it burned us externally. And within 90 days, 24 out of 25 of us were dead.
But not lucky number 25, baby Mike.
I say it's always so hard to share, but I always say that I'm one of the lucky ones, not because I'm alive, but because I wasn't my mum. I really mean it, and I still feel it now, that when you're in a position, when you love something that you can't breathe without, and they're in pain, you would you do anything to take that pain away. And I can only imagine the pain that my mum must have felt for such a long period of time, just hoping and praying that one day she was allowed to take a little boy home.
What a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And one day she was. That day came. Tell me what they said and what that was like for you, because not only did you spend a lot of your time in the hospital, but you also had some significant travel on your hands. So it was an ordeal on you and certainly on your mum, but also on the rest of your family for an extended period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, the treatment that we had was in Sydney at Camperdown Children's Hospital, and we were based and living in Coffs Harbour. So it was the 11-hour train ride back in those days from Coffs Harbour down to Sydney. We couldn't afford to fly down. We only had the one car, so we couldn't drive down. So we would leave at, I think, 11 p.m. and we would get down to Sydney at 10 a.m. and then we would have treatment from 11 o'clock onwards for 9 days. And then we'd get the train ride back home. We'd get here at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever time that morning train arrived. And it would all happen again 2 days later. We'd get back down there. And, it was wild. When we were finally allowed to go home, the doctors said to my mum outside the curtains, we don't know how or why, but you can take your little boy home, but he's never going to go to school. He'll never play sport. He'll be a housebound baby. And if he reaches his teenage years, it'll be a miracle. But my family and I, we believe in miracles. And, my mum come back in and I made out I didn't hear what the doctor said. I said, what did the doctor say? And she said, the doctors told me that everything's going to be okay. And I think, what a courageous woman to carry the fear and the burden of her son dying or potentially dying to just enable him to lead and live a normal life. And, I am so grateful for the life that I have lived, and I'm so grateful that I'm still here to be able to share the journey and the battles that have continued throughout my entire life.
I still hold this quite childlike belief, and I think that many of us believe that in an ideal world, when someone's had a really rough trot, that they're Barley's or immune to anything else going wrong, at least for a period of time, as though there's someone sitting in the clouds with a clipboard going, Mike's had enough hardship. Mike and his mum have done enough time. But that wasn't the end of it for you. Tell me, what was school like? What kind of a kid were you, having gone through this really horrific experience as a kid? What was it like to then get to go to school and do the things that the doctors said that you would never do?
I remember just being so excited to put on my school uniform and just be absolutely pumped to go to school and make friends and enjoy what I thought was going to be a normal life. But I was different. I had scabby skin. I had to sit on a nebulizer every recess at lunchtime. And I didn't realize, because I'd never been exposed to it, that there are many people that are not very nice. And, there wasn't one day in hospital I got picked on. There probably wasn't one day at school where I didn't get picked on. And man, it really tested my courage. I still remember, and I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but for those that don't know the story, at the age of 12, I started playing the game that I loved, which was baseball. And I started to get pretty good at it. And unfortunately, at 12, I got really sick. I got glandular fever. Then I got chickenpox, and I got pneumonia. Then I got the belly bug. And unfortunately, from the side effects of the drug that I had as a little boy, I had my first major heart attack. I was in hospital for, 8-9 weeks. And, I'd finally got a chance to taste what normality was, and it got taken away from me. But then one of the girls from school, Kelly Moody, I still remember her clearly. She's such a lovely soul, still is. She brought in a get well card from all the kids at school, from my high school. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, there is some really kind, beautiful people in there. And I still remember there was one message, and I still remember him clearly. In fact, he lives about 2 kilometers away with his wife and 3 kids. But it said, heard your heart stopped, hope you die. And that was to a 12-year-old boy. And I just remember it absolutely crippled me. It just crushed me. And I remember Mum always teaching me, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. And it certainly made me believe in myself and not wait around for other people to believe in us. I know that I share often that your value doesn't decrease based on one's inability to see our worth. And I think so many of us, we wait around for other people to dictate our value and dictate our worth. And, we're dictated by how many followers we have, or how many likes we get, or how many views we get. And, I really believe that when you start to value yourself, when you start to invest yourself, and when you start to love yourself, then it's remarkable how everything starts to change in your life, and you start to build momentum, and you start to achieve some things that many people around you may have thought was impossible.
It's such a good lesson, because we all listen to that one negative comment or the one piece of feedback at work that's like, you could be doing this better, even if we've gotten 9 pieces of other really positive feedback, or the one piece of feedback from our partner that's like, it would really help me out if you could do a bit more of this. We do have that negativity bias that is there for really good reason, and that's to keep us alive, but it does tend to trip us up, especially in this climate where there's no shortage of feedback by way of the popularity contest that is in our smartphones for us. Have you ever had a conversation with that guy that wrote that comment in your card? Have you ever spoken about it?
No, never. I've seen him, but I've never spoken to him about it. He's like 6'5", and his arms are like watermelons. So I just wave from a distance. But it's kind of nice that, I've been able to have a great life where I've been able to travel the world and hopefully inspire and impact millions of people. And I think that's what's most important. Forgiveness is a remarkable tool, whether they've asked for it or not. But it forgives me and allows me to move through that. And again, it was a dark lesson that I learned at a young age that probably empowered me and equipped me to be a little bit more ready for what was to come.
Can we talk about your health now? Because I remember when we caught up in Perth, you were like, I need to go for a run and then have an ice bath before I can go on stage. And then you very kindly gave up, I think, most of that, if not all of it, to sit and chinwag and sob with me. What does your health look like these days in the context of taking care of yourself? Because as someone with a compromised immune system that's lived through the last 3 years of challenge and uncertainty, when you get sick, you get really sick. And so I know that you dedicate and invest a lot of time into your health and well-being to make sure that you're as healthy as you can possibly be. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
So if I give everybody that's dialed in a very quick snapshot of since I was sort of 12 to now at 18, I was lucky enough to be playing baseball in America, and what a dream come true that was. But unfortunately, my health had deteriorated rapidly. My heart couldn't cope or compete. Financially, we couldn't afford to be there. I was sent back home. Never played baseball in America again. Got into the corporate world, climbed the corporate ladder, which I'm sure we'll delve into later. But I was driven by power, privileges, possessions, materialistic wealth. And in 2010, I got really sick again, got bacterial meningitis, got fluid on the brain. Then I had Bell's palsy down the right-hand side of my body. And that's when I sort of walked away from the corporate world and committed my life to serving and giving back to others. And that's when we opened an orphanage and a school overseas, because my family, or my wife and I, have been told we'll never be able to start a family. But now we've got 47 or 44 kids that live in our orphanage, 270 kids that go to our school. And then 2016, speaking was exploding. I was lucky to tour with like Richard Branson and sharing the stage with the likes of Dalai Lama and all those types of people. It was amazing, lots of different TV stuff. And then I got so busy trying to create an amazing life, I forgot to protect the one that I had. And as you know, I was diagnosed with 4 more tumors of the throat, and I had to do a video message saying goodbye to my family. And that was crazy. They removed 3 out of the 4 tumors. And then obviously we've had some turbulent times, which we will speak about in between that and 2022, when I was diagnosed again on the 15th of October. They found 6 more tumors in my throat. But fortunately enough, I have a lot to live for now. And I told them, remove everything that you need to. If I can never speak again, that's fine. But I've got some long-term dreams and goals that I need to fulfill. And that was amazing. Not only did they remove the 6th, but they removed the 7th one. That was from back in 2016. And whilst I was having surgery, they found a black spot on my shoulder, which turned out to be melanoma. They got rid of that with 38 stitches. And so that was pretty wild. But, I really think that we can invest all our money and try and grow our wealth and then die young. Or we can invest in our health, because I really believe that our wealth is our health, and we can actually live a life. And I know there's a lot of people that have lived many years on this earth, but only really existed. And there are many that I've met, especially through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and kids that want to meet me before they pass away. And they're so young, yet they've lived such a life, and they've impacted so many. And I think that me is what I want. I want to impact as many as I can, but I want to do it as healthy as I possibly can. So like your point, I'm very structured around my routine now. People say I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person either. I don't like getting up early, but I get up early every morning because I really like life. I really like to live, and I want to live longer, and I want to live healthier. So my routine every morning, I'm up about 5:30. I stretch, I exercise in the gym, and then as you can tell, I don't lift heavy weights. It's more cardio. And then I did a lot of research in regards to saunas, and the infrared sauna was definitely the best fit for my health. So I jump in an infrared sauna now, and then jump into a 4-degree ice bath for 4 minutes, and then get back out, stretch, do some laps in the pool, and then back inside. And I try and have that all done by about 6:30, 6:45. I'm really focused on what I eat. A lot of people say, I don't watch negative stuff on TV. That's great. Because you know that it messes up your head and your mind, but it's the same with what we consume through our mouth as well. So I want to make sure that everything that goes into my body, whether it's in my eyes, whether it's in my ears, or whether it's in my mouth, I really want to make sure that it's going to serve me really, really well. Even little things like I eat dinner at 6:00 now because I go to bed at 8:30 and I want to have 2 hours for my food to digest. I turn all the lights down at the house at 7:00 because I want my brain to start to slow down. I meditate over nighttime. I meditate every single morning. I pray every morning. I'm very structured in regards to my routine. My wife often says that everything else is not structured. Like if I'm doing a gig in New Zealand or to the States or wherever I'm off to next, we just did 11 countries in 7 weeks. And she's like, where are you staying at? And I'm like, I have no idea where I'm staying at. I'll work that out when I get to the airport. But my health stuff, that's a priority. And even to your point, when I'm at a hotel, I make sure I get a room with a bathtub so that I can ring concierge at 5:00 in the morning and ask them to bring 2 or 3 buckets of ice up to get that chill factor and have that shock therapy every morning. So I just see it as a necessity. And my uncle taught me a great lesson when I was a kid. If it's important, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. And I don't want to make excuses.
I love that because, when I speak, I use a table and I'll say to people, right, this is your life, okay? You've got your family, you've got your friends, you've got your work, you've got your hobbies, you've got Netflix. Where is your health? And people will say, it's not on there. And I'll say, no, it's not on there because it's the table. And if I take the table away, nothing has anything to stand on. And I love that approach because it means that everything else in your life fits around your health, which is your most important asset. Because if you don't have that, then you don't have everything else, right? So it's like my commitment is to my health, then everything else falls in and around that. And I appreciate that not everybody listening to this is in a position to be able to structure their life like that. But there is a lesson in that for all of us. And, we are full of excuses about, I don't have time to get to the gym, or I can't afford to eat well, or, I can't afford to go and do an ice bath or a sauna or whatever it is. And I always say to people, you just start with whatever you can. If it's 45 seconds of doing squats while you're waiting for your toast to toast, do 45 seconds of squats waiting for your toast to toast. If it's having 30 seconds of a cold shower at the end of your shower, do 30 seconds of your cold shower. Like, do whatever you can. I think that's such an important message. And I love that you prioritize it no matter where you are.
You make a really good point about affordability of these things. And, I'm very blessed now to be in a position where I can have those types of luxuries. However, when we're healthy, we've all got hundreds of dreams and goals, but when we're not healthy, we just have one, right? And that's to be healthy. We can't afford healthy food, but we can afford medication to help us get better when we're sick. So if there's a way that we can prioritize when we're healthy to redirect some funds to ensure that we can stay healthy, then we don't need to spend the money that we would normally be able to afford to pay for medication to get healthy again. And I'm not saying you need an ice bath and a sauna and all those sort of things, but to your point, like go on and during this winter months, end your shower every morning with 10 seconds of cold water, and then extend it to 15, and then 20, and then 30, and every morning I go to get in the ice bath and I'm like, I do not enjoy this at all. I don't like it at all. But when I get out of the ice bath, I'm like, man, that was amazing. I feel incredible. And I always scale, and I know I've spoken to you about this before, but I scale every morning. I lie in bed before I get up and I'm like, how do I feel? And this morning wasn't great. It's been character building a few days, and it's never been a hard day or a tough day, right? We speak about language. It's been a character building day. And I got up this morning and I was probably about a 4, and I went over and did some work on the treadmill and then got in the sauna and jumped in the ice bath. And when I got out, I came back and I was like, how are you? And I was like, well, I was a 4 when I went over there. I'm probably an 8 now, 7 or an 8 now. So I'm going to be so much more productive today. I'm going to get so much more done than if I'd have stayed in bed this morning and said, you know what, I feel like a 4. I couldn't be bothered.
Which is what the majority of us would do.
Yeah. And that's, I love that people want to live the 1% life, but they don't want to do the 99% of work that we need to do. Like 99% of people won't do that little bit extra to allow you to fall into the 1% category to enjoy and live an amazing life. Yet we sit on the outside and we complain that we don't have it. And I know it's not easy, and I know it's tough. And I come from a very poor upbringing, and my first pair of Billabong shorts I got was in year 12 when Mum bought a $4 pair from Lowe's and took the logo off and put my dad's old Billabong surfing logo over the top with fluoro orange thread. Like, it was the worst Thailand knockoff Billabong shorts you've ever had in your life. And it's amazing those moments in your life stick with you. I remember working as a bellman at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel when I was 16. It was just for work experience. And I loved it, and I really enjoyed it. And there was all these famous people there, and Greg Norman stayed there. He tipped me $10 to go and get his VB from his fridge because he was at a restaurant across the road, and all these sort of crazy things. And my mum, when I got home, she said, how was it? And I said, you know what, I really, really enjoyed it. However, I feel like I want to be the person that has my door opened as opposed to opening doors. And it just really refined my vision for what my future would be like. And then a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of suffering. And now, I'm very blessed to be in a position where my door gets open. But I think it gets open because I work really hard to help other people, open their doors.
Well, and because you've had the context of being the person who opens the doors, right? Exactly. If you don't have that, then having your door opened is what you've always had, and you've got no context for the other, which means that you appreciate it. Let's talk about money, because at 23, correct me if I'm wrong, at 23, you are living the high life in Sydney. Is that timing right in the timeline?
Yep.
You're living the high life. You've gone, baseball didn't work out for me. That was this big dream. And so you've funneled this incredible energy and passion that you've got into killing it effectively. So you're in banking, you're very young, you are climbing the ranks at lightning speed, you've got hundreds of employees underneath you, you're driving down George Street in a fancy car. And what happens? Take me back to that Mike. What was that Mike thinking about himself and his life?
I was filled with ego and arrogance. I was trying to prove to other people my worth. I was trying to make myself bigger than what I really was. And the story you referred to, I had the roof off. I had one hand on the wheel. I had the music playing. I drove past these 2 backpackers with their life possessions on their back, and I thought they were looking at me saying, "Wow, this guy is unbelievably successful." And now I reflect back on it and realize they were looking at me going, "Wow, this guy is unbelievably a wanker," right? He was a wanker. I was a wanker. I thought I was better than other people. I lived way beyond my means. I wore expensive watches that told the time that I really couldn't afford. I lived in an apartment that was worth way too much than I should have been borrowing from the bank. And, I'm so glad that I'm not that person anymore. And what's amazing is in the world that I live in now, I see so many of those people. I see so many of those people working so hard every single day to prove to other people their worth. And it is a lonely, lonely road. And I'm so glad that my health deteriorated so much that it woke me up and I hit rock bottom and realized there was only one place to go. And I really mean that. I would not want to think the person I would have become if I stayed in that world. And, I'm forever grateful for that horrible darkness that I experienced over an extended period of time when I was not only very unwell physically with, bacterial meningitis and Bell's palsy, but mentally I was very, very dark. And I'm so glad that I chose the path that took me to a place that allowed me to serve the world rather than serve myself.
And your way of life extended to not just you, but to the people that you love most. So with good intentions, you tried to help out your mum, and tell us what happened.
So in 2007, mum and dad, they separated. It was a horrible divorce. And unfortunately, the way things were distributed, mum didn't get too much money and it wasn't enough to buy her a house. It wasn't enough to buy her a unit, actually. So, and I had so much debt in Sydney, trying to have the fancy cars and the watches and the clothes and the apartments, that I really couldn't take care of her. Maybe I didn't prioritize it, to be honest. And I invested all my mum's money, and that was 6 weeks before the GFC hit, and I lost it all. I failed. I failed. The one woman that sacrificed so much of her life for me, she went to hell and back, and I let her down. And I was so ashamed of the man that I'd become. But again, we get to that place of darkness, and you have two paths. The path where there's no turning back, or there's a path that allows you to correct your wrongs. And, I remember saying to her that I'll make this right. And it was a long road to get it right. But 1 month before I was diagnosed in 2016, I was lucky enough to be in a position to put a pink ribbon on a new door to a new home. And people say, "Oh, you must be so rich to be able to do that." Not a chance. That was not the case at all. I prioritized it. I made it important. I wanted to follow through. I want to be a man of my word and really ensure that my commitment became a reality. And I remember that day I told her we'd rented the house, and she was just over the moon that we'd rented this house for 12 months. And then I showed her the contract that it was hers. And man, that was one of the sweetest days of my life. And it really made me proud of the man that I'd become because of that hardship. And I learned a really valuable lesson that day, that it feels so much greater to give than to receive.
And give you went on to do. So it sounds to me like I can only imagine how that must have felt to be able to do that for your mom that day. And if I can just go into bat for 23-year-old Mike for 1 second, because everybody listening to this knows that fork in the road that comes to us all of us at some point in our lives where we have to make a decision, and we do the best with what we have at the time. And I have no doubt that your intentions were good. And the fact that you were able to right your wrong, as you say, even though it wasn't easy and it took you a period of time, is living proof and testament to the fact that that is available to all of us. I've made more than my fair share of mistakes in my life. I wrote about them extensively in my book. And I love your vulnerability and fragility around that because it means something to you. And that's such a powerful message for any of us to hear. And you mentioned the work that you are doing in Haiti. Tell me why Haiti, and how have you applied the lessons that you have learned in the gift that you have given to families in Haiti? Because you have set up this incredible charity that every cent gets sent directly there, so that they aren't missing out on the vast amount of funds, which so many charities, unfortunately, so much of the goodwill gets eaten up in admin and fees, and very little of it actually gets to the people. So tell me what it is that you're doing differently and how you are empowering and giving these people the skills, not just to be helped in the moment, but to build a life for themselves in the future.
Well, the first question was why Haiti? To be quite honest, friends of ours told me that they were going to a place that just had a horrible earthquake, killed 316,000 people, and let's go and help these guys out. And I thought they said Tahiti. And I remember saying to them, that's where my auntie went for her honeymoon. So like I was in Florida at the time working with the baseball team, and they said, your auntie went to Haiti for a honeymoon? And I was like, hey, no, she went to Tahiti, isn't that? And she said, no, we're going to Haiti. I was like, oh, Haiti, where's Haiti? Then I realized it was only an hour and a half flight south of me. And, you know, this island has 10 million people who live there, and 80% of them are unemployed. It's just horrific. We went down there, rebuilt a school for 120 kids. Now we've got 270 kids there. And then we were told we could never have a family. So we wanted to give back and try and start a family. So we helped all the kids that didn't have a house to live in, and we started or helped support and fund an orphanage down there for 44 little kids. And what's been remarkable about that journey is I remember getting interviewed by this lady, and she said, I said, why do you think, because she did all the questions, and I just jumped in and said, why do you think the country's in the state that it's in? And she said, oh, it's because of people like you. And I was like, oh, what do you mean by that? And she goes, well, people come over here and they give us a handout. We don't need a handout. We need a hand up. We need people to educate us, teach us, show us how to fish. Don't just give us the fish. You rock up with your tools and your people, and you come in and you fix the situation, and then you and your people and your tools leave. So from there on, we delved down a different path, and we identified that out of the 44 kids, 20 plus kids' parents were still alive. We couldn't give the kids back because the parents were unemployed. So we created another problem. So we needed to find a solution, and we did that by starting micro businesses. So we started a training and development center where we would help these parents start their own businesses in clothing, manufacturing, jewelry making, English speaking, and construction. And fortunate enough, we've been able to allow these or support these parents to have their own successful micro businesses. And those kids now live back with their families. We've been able to go in and rebuild, do some updates on their shanties, their shacks to make sure they're safe. We give them care packages once a week. We have a counselor goes in to make sure that they're safe and going to school still. And these kids, I went there because I wanted to do something for somebody that would never be able to return the favor. You know, I love that saying, we must give without remembering and receive without forgetting. And, you know, it's kind of fun when people ask me about Haiti because you actually forget about the impact that you're having. You know that you want to make more of an impact, but you forget about, you know, the lives you've touched and the families that you've saved and the kids' lives that you've saved. And yeah, it's a great honor and a great privilege. And, you know, I hope that we can continue our work down there. Unfortunately, right now, the country has been taken over. The Prime Minister, the president was assassinated. It's now completely run by gangs, and it's a frightening place to go. And most of the kids that are in the orphanage now are living in the stadium where they're protected 24 hours a day by security guards, and they're keeping the gangs out. So we only hope that soon that country will see some rest, and we'll be able to get back down there and continue to support our mission of giving these kids and their families the best life possible.
Have you been able to get word that they're all okay? Are they all safe?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. We have wonderful, wonderful people that live in Haiti, that grew up in Haiti, that are still connected. And again, rather than having people from here go down there and run it, we have people down there run it. Mm-hmm. And that, again, to your point about making sure every cent gets sent, that for us was so important to ensure that we've got the right people on the ground over there that we can trust with our lives and our finances to be able to see the impact come to fruition through having the right people there.
So cool. One of the things that an experience like that gives you is perspective. And I think in this climate of Instagram memes and in some ways wonderful conversations like this, we get this glimpse of a perspective that is so far outside of our own that it allows us to perhaps have some more gratitude for the lives that we live, and also ask ourselves whether or not we're doing as much as we could be doing and want to be doing with this one precious life that all of us have. I feel like over the last 3 years, COVID has kind of dislodged many people's anchors from what they thought their purpose and their passion and their reason for being on the earth might be. What would be your advice to somebody who felt like they were struggling with their purpose to find what that is, whether they've ever known or whether they've kind of lost their way?
I think everybody wants to find what they want in life. They want to find their purpose now, and they want to live into it. And I'm 40, and yes, or 40 in a couple of days. I get to travel around the world and do what I do, but I still don't really know my purpose. I still don't really know what I want to do in life. I'm still living it. Every day I get up and I think, what can I do to help other people? And that, I guess, has helped me in identifying my purpose through serving other people. What I hear so often when it comes to me sharing my story, or others, yourself, I hear a lot of people go, oh, when I'm in a position, I will do that as well. When I'm retired, or when I've got money, or when my circumstances change. But I don't think it's this one moment in your life where your circumstances change where you go, all right, now I'm going to make an impact. It's literally getting out of bed tomorrow morning and saying, today I'm going to search high and low to identify one person that I can simply help today. Today I was at the grocery store and got some groceries, and there was an elderly lady in front of me. Literally, she had, I think, 2 or 3 bananas, a loaf of bread, some milk, and a Woolies bag, and maybe one other thing. I don't know what it was, an egg flip or something. And she was very hard of hearing. So I just said to the guy in front at the reception, the counter, I said, just put all her food on my bill. And it cost me about $12 or whatever it was. It was not much. And she started crying, and she gave me a big hug. And she's like, I've had such a horrible morning. She'd have been 75, 80. I've had a horrible morning, and, you've just put faith back into my heart. And whether you can afford to pay for $12 of somebody's groceries, or when you go out to your car and you put your groceries in your car, whether you just dump your trolley on the side of the road or leave it in that spare parking space next to you, or whether you actually take it back and put it in the lane where it's meant to go, just little things like that. Just hold yourself accountable every day to find one person that you can shift and change their life, just simply, easily. It doesn't have to be a game changer. It doesn't have to be buying a house or a car or something financial. It just needs to be giving somebody a hug, giving somebody a smile. I think that really helps us to identify what it is that we want, because we start to value ourselves. The greatest way to learn is to teach. And I think when we teach other people the importance of gratitude, the importance of service, the importance of positive impact on the world, then it just reinforces to us what we want to do in our life. And, I really think that to just simply find your purpose can often come from just simply serving others.
I couldn't agree more. I just want to talk about your commitment to language, because you've raised it a couple of times, and I watch you very carefully choose your words on stage and while you're talking to me. And I love the intentionality of that. So what does your language sound like? Because you live your life speaking, so your external language, which you can carefully curate and choose and practice and rehearse. What does your internal dialogue sound like?
Yeah, the internal dialogue must reflect and represent the external dialogue that we have, in my opinion. I hear so often people make a mistake. You drop something this morning and smash, and you go, oh, we say it all the time, such an idiot. Oh, God, why did I do that? Oh, what a moron. These types of conversations. We have 80,000 thoughts a day, and 70% of them are negative. So we have 56,000 negative thoughts a day, and you think that it's going to help you by telling yourself that you're a moron. It just simply makes things worse. So I am incredibly micro around my thoughts and my language. I even reflect on the most recent surgery that I had, and going into that operation, everything from visualization coming out the other side, what it was going to look like, how I was going to feel, how my voice was going to be, what my next 2 weeks were going to look like, everything that was spoken out of my mouth was in a frame of mind that was going to put me into a position that I was going to be the best I possibly could be for that surgeon. I wanted to make sure that I was calm and I was collected and I was in control. Maybe it just drops my heart rate by 1 or 2 beats, which then allows the surgeon to keep me under maybe a minute or 2 or 3 or 5 minutes longer, which then enables him to be able to get, or her to get everything that they need to get out, which then allows me to come out the other side. So that's how micro I am. So much so that, like, when someone says to me, I say to them, "How are you?" And you go, "Not bad." Straight away I chip them, and I ask about them. "Oh man, tell me what's wrong. What's happening?" And they go, "No, I'm good." I'm like, "Well, why didn't you tell me that you're good?" The first word not, second word bad, that registers. To counteract a negative word with a positive word, it registers 40 times more effectively. So you need to basically say that you're good 40 times after you've just told me that you're not bad. So stop telling people what you're not, start telling people what you are. I think firstly that's been huge for me. Secondly is when someone asks you to do something, we respond with why not. I don't understand why people say why not. Just say yes. If someone says you want to go to play golf this afternoon, you want to go for a walk, you want to, catch up on the phone, you want to do a Skype, why not? No, just say yes. And then the last one that I'm so micro around is I always hear people say, "I miss you so much." And if I say that to you, that evokes sadness, that evokes an emotion that is not of joy when I say that, even though you miss them. When I'm away all the time, I used to use that phrase all the time. "I miss you, I miss you, I miss you." Now I just rephrase it and say, "I'm excited to see you." I'm saying the exact same thing, but it lands significantly different on a subconscious level. And for me, that's how micro I am. I'm so micro around the words that I use because I want my state of mind to be as optimistic and as positive as I possibly can be, regardless of the challenges that the world throws at me, so I can perform the best I possibly can and live the best I possibly can.
I love it. Let's play a game. I'm going to throw at you some negative thoughts that I have, that I know that other people have, and I'm going to let you micify them. You ready?
I'm ready.
I can't do this.
I'm learning each day to get better at this.
I hate the way I look.
I hate the way I look. I hate the way I look. I am so grateful that I have the ability to see.
My boss is a total jerk.
My boss teaches me daily how not to behave.
I'm not good enough.
I will become better at being me every single day.
It'll never happen for me.
I'm getting one step closer.
Oh, micified. I love it. I love it.
I've never played that game. Thanks for the challenge.
But it's a good game to play, right? I think that many people assume that when you really get on top of your mindset, that those negative thoughts stop coming. And I just don't believe that to be true. So that is what the internal dialogue should sound like. Here comes that thought. Oh, I'm having that thought that I'm not good enough. I'm getting better every day. They still come. We can't stop them from coming, right? It's about catching them and then replacing them and doing it again and again.
Acknowledging it.
And again and again and again and again.
Yeah, for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But it won't land anywhere near as heavy as what it once did. And that, I think, is the key.
I agree.
I really believe that those thoughts and that language will consistently be there to challenge you. And, I often say to myself, well, that's the old me. That's the old me. That's not the way I think anymore.
That
just gives me permission to dismiss that thought and move through the way I need to think.
So good. So you were told by your doctors that you would never have children. And then what happened?
I thought we managed to escape the conversation.
We got one more round of tears to go.
Yeah, one more. So 2017, I was, life was wild. Life was amazing. We had a few little hiccups here and there, but after 5 years of IVF, we announced to the world that we were going to have a little baby. And it was all over the news, and it was crazy times. So we were meant to have a baby the end of February 2018. But as you all know, life doesn't always go according to plan. And my apologies for those that have faced pain in the area of conceiving, and but we're just really lucky that our outcome was a positive one. On the 8th of December 2017, my wife was 29 weeks pregnant and she went into labour. We were airlifted to Sydney Hospital, the Royal in Randwick, and 4 days later, my wife gave birth to a very, very unwell little boy named Lachlan James. And I never realised that when you have a child that you no longer are in control of your heart. You no longer can take a breath without knowing that they're okay. And unfortunately, our little boy was not okay. He was taken away from us. He was put in a glass container. He was put in intensive care unit level 3, where we couldn't hold him. We couldn't kiss him. We couldn't hug him. We couldn't make him better. And I felt like I failed. I felt like I failed as a dad. I felt like I failed as a husband. I felt like I failed as a man. And then one night we were staying at the Ronald McDonald House, which was crazy because I lived at Ronald McDonald House for 4 years as a sick little boy, and 32 years later I was living at Ronald McDonald House with my own sick little boy. And the doctor told us to come up, and we ran up there, and he told me that our little boy had an illness called sepsis, a blood disease, and they basically said that he wouldn't make it to the end of the week. And I remember yelling, saying, "You take my house, take my car, take everything that I own, but please don't take my little boy." And I always think, why is it that we wait until we're in our darkest moments before we begin to appreciate things that we so often take for granted? But he has far more resilience and far more courage and strength than I do. I think he got a little piece of my mum, and he just wouldn't quit, and he wouldn't go away. I remember praying to God, saying, "If you're going to take him, please take him now." But he didn't go anywhere, and now he is a healthy 6-year-old little boy, and he is just he's the sweetest little guy in the world. And I really mean it when I say that he is my best friend. There's not a person in the world outside my beautiful wife that I think about every morning that I wake up. Every town that I am in, every stage that I walk on, it's like there's another little human running around with my heart in his body. And I am just so grateful to God that he has given me the immense privilege and blessing to feel what true love really feels like. And then, as you know, in 2021, after being in lockdown for 11 months, somehow my wife fell pregnant and we had no visitors. And on the 21st of January 2021, my beautiful wife gave birth to a gorgeous little girl named Summer Grace. And man, I really mean it. I feel like I'm one of the luckiest people on the face of the earth. I've been able to experience some great hardship that has taught me such wonderful lessons. I've been able to experience such ecstasy and highs and the darkest, deepest valleys. And for all of those experiences, I am eternally grateful for, because I know that whether it's great success or great hardship, what follows is great lessons. And I know that I'm a better man because of it. I understand that I'm as old as I've ever been, but I'm as young as I will ever be. I realize that this is not a dress rehearsal. This is the one life that we all get to live. And I am so grateful that I get to live it. And so many people have told me in my life that I've been dealt with some really, really challenging cards. But I realize that whilst ever I'm being dealt cards, that means I'm still in the game. And whilst ever I'm still in the game, it's about how I choose to play those cards. And for all of you listening, I only hope that from hearing this story that you don't spend the rest of your days comparing your cards to other people. You just are grateful that you still have cards, that you are still in the game. And today could be the first day of the rest of your life that you start to play your cards as effectively as what you really need to.
I adore you, Michael Crossland. I really do. We're so lucky.
Thank you for fighting. Thank you for fighting through and giving us all the chance to hear your wonderful story, so that when we get caught up in the washing, hanging, Netflix watching, glass cup dropping humdrum of the day-to-day, we can pinch just a tiny bit of your perspective and go after life in the way that you have. I feel so lucky to have met you and to get to have spent well over an hour chatting with you today. What a delight and a privilege. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. And I appreciate the opportunity to hopefully make a difference in just one person's life, and they can pay that good deed forward and make a difference in someone else's.
Go get them, listeners.